I said, God, give me a sign. He gave me 5. He said, watch for the pride, envy and lies. He said, don't reach for hands if there's a tide. Don't tell them that you love them if they ain't tried. If they ain't.
Welcome back to a True Kings podcast. I'm your host, LJ Johnson. First things first, I just want to thank you guys for over 100 subscribers now. We're almost at 200 subscribers. I uploaded that last video about Michael Jackson almost a month ago, and the channel has kind of blown up from there. And I don't think y'all realize how grateful I am. I've had this dream to do a podcast since I was actually really, really young, and one day I may do a whole story about that. But you know, the goal is 100K as of right now. The goal is 100K, and I know we can get there. But as of right now, I really appreciate you all who are currently subscribed. But let's get to the point of this video. So recently, if you guys follow me on my personal social medias, you would know that I recently graduated from university, got my bachelor's degree in business, and I'm so blessed for that. Kids, you know, shout out to everyone who supported me along the way. Love each and every single one of you. But within that time frame, I actually ended up getting a very, very nice job, and that job is potentially a job that I may have a full-blown career in. So once again, very grateful for that. But by me taking that job, it required me to leave a place that I was at for 7 years. I worked at my last job, my very first job ever. I worked there for 7 years of my life. Remember, 7 is the number of completion. My mom spoke it into existence. We were having a whole conversation about that. She was like, 7 is the number of completion. You'll most likely probably leave this year. And lo and behold, a few days after we had that conversation, I got the job, which was amazing. But I'm not here to badmouth the job or whatever, but I was there from my beginning of my junior year of high school all the way up until my last year of college. 7 years of my life. I did 5 years in college, and the one thing I learned is I met many people along the way, and I learned a lot about the meaning of what love actually truly is supposed to be. So I'm gonna relate this back to the Lord real quick, because y'all know I'm nothing without him. And so what the Bible says, what my Lord and Savior lets us know, is love is supposed to be patient, it's supposed to be kind, it doesn't envy, and it doesn't boast, it is not proud. And the reason I'm making this video is because love is such a weird, and it's honestly becoming a more taboo concept because everyone has their own definition of love. But we're going to go off of this right here. 1 Corinthians 13 NIV version. That's what that says. And so when I think about love, I think of patience. I think of kindness. But what it is to a lot of people nowadays is it's chaos. Don't know why. Actually, we do know why, and like I said, I'm going to go into that in this video. But to a lot of people nowadays, love is chaos. It's not that patience. It's not the kindness. It is, to many people, it's consistent arguments. It's consistent toxicity, consistent abuse. And here's the one thing I've come to realize is it really stems from an inner problem that people have. A lot of people don't love themselves like how they or really how they should. Some people, I think, overly love themselves. You probably wonder, how can someone overly love themselves? People who are boastful, people who consistently think so high of themselves that it makes them narcissistic. that gives them a certain God complex. No, those people overly love themselves, because in those people, in their eyes, they can never make a mistake. But love is accountability. That is love. It is something that you have to be accountable for, whether it's being accountable for yourself or being accountable for others. Love is not easy. It was never meant to be easy. But I really want to take a deep dive into this. So the one consistent thing in my 7 years of working at this place, it was a restaurant. Of working at this restaurant, like I said, I've come across people who are my age, people who were younger, people who were way older, people who were just a few years older. And the common theme that, like I said, that was there was chaos. But where does this chaos stem from? And a lot of people grew up in very chaotic households. Childhood, stems a lot from what did this person experience in their childhood that made them think that, hey, this is what love is. That makes them think love is this chaotic type thing. Like what happened, right? And there's a thing where the single parent household rate is going up. But I also want to talk about something that isn't talked about enough, because we can talk about the single parent household all we want to. I was personally blessed to grow up with both of my parents in my life. That really taught me what love is. Love is supposed to be unconditional. It's supposed to be patient, like I said, kind, accountable. And you're supposed to do what you do for the people that you love. It is a feeling, but it's also something that you learn over time. And the thing is, while I can sit there and talk about the single parent household, and like I said, I grew up in a 2-parent household, let's talk about the 2-parent households where it's still a chaotic household. How many of us have met couples who were really never meant to be together? We've all been in those type of relationships where we're with somebody we really had no business being with. But these couples who they go on, they have no business being with each other, but yet they're having kids and they're doing this, that, and the third. But then they're sitting there wondering why things are so not clicking. We've all met people like that, right? We can talk about the damages that a single parent household may create, but no one talks about the damages that a 2-parent household that is just as chaotic can create. In fact, arguably, from what I have seen, those are probably worse than a lot of single parent households, majority of the time. 2-parent households that are extremely, extremely chaotic. Now, I'm not a parent. I can only go based off the conversations I've had with people, the things and how I've seen people react. And it's a difficult topic, right? But I mean, when you grow up in a household where you're seeing people and your parents aren't giving each other unconditional love, your parents are consistently abusing each other, cheating on each other, which in my opinion, cheating is a form of abuse. Argue with your mom, I don't care. But these are the things that I see people go through, and they take that on into their adult life, and it makes them have this thing to where they don't love each other. I think it's the best way to put it. Or not love each other, but love themselves is the best way to put it. Growing up in my household, the one thing that I was very blessed, and the one thing that my parents instilled in my sisters and I was that, like I said, all those things I've said, love is supposed to be unconditional, patient, kind, all of it, and that you should work hard for the person that you love, not because you feel like they owe you, but because you know it's the thing you're supposed to do, right? But the one thing that they instilled in all three of us was, you're a queen, you're a king. Growing up, I was always told that I was a king, and that as long as I do the right thing, continue to be the man I'm supposed to be, no one can take that crown away from me. And I stand firm on that, hence the podcast name, A True Kings Podcast, right? I don't think my parents really realized I named it that because of them. But, shout out my parents. But they always instilled in me that I was a king, and no one can take that crown, no matter how badly they treat me, as long as I know my worth. So I'm gonna give you guys a backstory real quick. So when I was in high school, I've talked about this on here before, but when I was in high school, I did not date anybody. I was not in any form of a relationship. I tried and I tried and I tried. I think in high school I was rejected by like 2 girls freshman year, like 2 girls sophomore year, 2 girls senior year. Like, I was rejected a lot. I was made to feel like I wasn't worth anything. And I've made a video on here months ago. It was called The Differences in Men. One of the best videos, in my opinion, I've ever made. And I talked about the differences between the nice guy, the good guy, and the toxic guy. And I think every man can attest to this. And that is, us as men, we're going to deal with way more rejection in life than what women may deal with. And I know that's going to be controversial. There's going to be a lot of women who are going to hear that and be like, oh, you're lying. No. Hear me out. And I specifically mean in dating. Us as men, we're going to deal with rejection after rejection after rejection before we get a yes. I didn't get my first real girlfriend until I was 19 years old, a year after I graduated high school. That's when I finally ended up dating someone fully. And but when I was in high school and I was dealing with all that, and then of course these same girls that I liked, they were consistently choosing people I would consider friends or people who were associates, the football players, when I was dealing with all this, every day I would come home and I would sit in the dark, just sit in the dark. I might be on the game, but TV be off for the most part. I may just be on my phone, but I was just in the dark, sleeping and all this other stuff. And my parents would get mad at me. They'd be like, why are you always sitting in the dark? Why do you always want to be in the dark? Why do you always just want to stay in your room all day? Why do you always want to do this? Why do you always want to do that? And like I said, I've discussed that before. But the biggest thing to why I was like that was because I was depressed, and I felt like what they had told me growing up was a complete contradiction. And I'm gonna say this right now, in terms of teaching how life is, high school's a scam. It's a scam. No one can convince me otherwise. I think you need to go to high school, you need to go to school, but high school's a scam because it does not prepare you for what the real world actually is. It can only give you glimpses, if that makes sense. And that's what I got. I got glimpses of how the world actually was because that was my first introduction to how people view the nice guy or the good guy, if that makes sense. And every day I would sit here and these same exact girls who would consistently reject me, they'd come and complain to me. This guy did this to me, this guy did that to me, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm the guy who's trying to buy you flowers, the guy who's trying to take you out on a nice date. But I was made to not feel good enough. And that made me over and over and over again not feel like I was a king. if I'm a king, why would I be mistreated in such ways that completely contradict what my parents told me growing up? And so after high school, when I met my first ex-girlfriend, it felt great. It felt great. And for the first time in experiencing what a relationship was actually like, I would say, what's the best way to put this? I would say it was the first time I experienced what it was like to truly meet someone who didn't love themselves as much as, or just as much as I didn't love myself, if that makes sense. At the time, all I wanted was experience. That's all I wanted. I wanted to experience what love actually was like. I got sick and tired of coming home and hearing from my family and family friends, I love you so much. No, I wanted to hear it from someone other than them. And I still didn't hear it from my ex then, but I felt it. I felt wanted, and I just wanted to feel that way. And within that time, it was crazy because she was the first, I think, woman that I ever met that really showed me what it was like for someone not to love themselves. And after that, there was a pattern, because I realized that after she broke up with me, I felt very used because she was on to the next guy just like that. But I felt very used, like I was meant to heal her or something. And that taught me, one, you can't use other people to heal you. And I started to see this, like I said, this consistent pattern in people that I come across, whether it was trying to date them or be friends with them, whether it was male or female. It was this consistent pattern. And that many people use others to heal the pain that they have within themselves, which is why it's very important to love yourself. Going from guy to guy, girl to girl, sleeping with everyone you come across, to me, that's a sign. Well, even though you could say you're trying to have fun, it's a sign that you don't love yourself like how you probably should. So after she broke up with me, I did a lot of work. I'm not saying I didn't try to date other people. I started really, like I said, I started to see a lot of consistency in who I was going for, and I started to really change that up. And I did. But the biggest thing was figuring out what was the issue within myself that made me consistently feel the way I did. And the truth is, I just had to improve. And the biggest thing I said what love is it's accountability. A lot of people don't want to hold themselves accountable because they don't want to deal with the consequences of what they may have done that may make them feel like they're at fault for something. And so I started holding myself accountable a lot. Started looking at myself in the mirror a lot. And as time went on, I started to see what my parents really meant growing up and what love really was. And I started becoming very picky, if that makes sense, in terms of who I chose, who I went for, all this other stuff. And you end up realizing that not everyone's going to be for you. Not everyone's going to be for you. Not everyone's going to want you. Not everyone's going to love you. In fact, there's going to be a lot of people that hate you just for being you. Which is, like I said, why you should love yourself. I went and I was single for, I've only dated 2 people in my life. Only 2 relationships in my life. And though they were both 3 years apart. One was the one I just mentioned. The second one ended back in October. And that one ended because, and I look at that relationship as a test. Because I'm not going to go into why it ended, but let's just say I was treated a certain way that I didn't appreciate. But because I took the time to learn to love myself, I was able to walk away like nothing had happened. And I'm not saying that's always going to be the case, because the more you spend time with somebody, the more you grow to love them, the harder it is going to be to walk away. But in my head, I was like, it's better to be single and to wait to find the right person than to sit there and settle for someone that clearly does not care about me. And so going back to this whole broken home situation, like I said, with the backstory, there are a lot of people who don't get a chance to experience that love from their parents, sitting there telling them that they are a king, that they are a queen, that they deserve this from people, that from people. And they're not always going to get that from people. But what a lot of people don't teach their kids nowadays is, hey, this is how you should be treated, and this is how you handle it when you're not treated. You know, I think a lot of people walk away from situations for some of the stupidest reasons. Because like I said, a lot of times nowadays, because a lot of people grow up in those chaotic households, whether it's a single parent or two parent, they end up meeting somebody, and because they don't know what love truly is supposed to be like, they meet someone who really does know what that's supposed to be like, and they walk away. They decide to walk away from it. And the one thing I ask those people is, was it really the person that you was with, or was it you? Are you willing to hold yourself accountable to the extent that you need to hold yourself accountable, so that way you can heal from the traumas of your childhood, from your previous relationships, from what this person did to you, from what that person did to you? And healing is not easy. Healing is one of the hardest things you will ever have to do in your life. But that's life. Plain and simple. Do you understand? Like, you gotta understand, if you know you're being mistreated, why do you continue to put up with it? Why do you continue to look at this person and say, hey, I'm being mistreated, why do you think you can change that person? Why? I'm gonna tell y'all this. Just like I said, you gotta love yourself. You can only change for yourself. There are a lot of y'all who are in these toxic relationships right now thinking that that's what love is, and then you become single, and then you're consistently like, nah, I don't believe in love, blah, blah, blah. Have you ever sat down and asked yourself, why did you try to change the person that you was with when you know this is how they were? And we can talk about people who have a mask on. We can talk about that all you want to. Because here's the simple thing. Understand, people will show their true colors pretty early, like a lot earlier than what you think. Sometimes they don't, but a lot of times they do. A lot of times they'll show their true colors in the first month, you know. And that's where you gotta ask yourself and hold yourself accountable. What are the choices that you are making that make you feel like love is this toxic thing, you know? Why do you keep going for these types of people, you know? You're going for a woman who consistently likes to party, smoke all day long, who is known for her promiscuity. You're going for a woman who is all about money. Money isn't the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. I had a girl choose a man over me because he had more money. Happened years ago as well. And I used to sit there and be like, dang, like, that's because as a man, that makes you not feel good enough at all. You're not making enough money, so she's like, he can't be a provider for me. But guess what? From what I've heard, she has her regrets about that decision. Or had her regrets about that decision. Nothing you can do about it. It was a choice she made. She just proved to me. I'm gonna tell you this. I don't ever want to be with a woman who has a love for money. Money is a need, but you shouldn't have a love for it, because, like I said, the love of money leads to evil. And I think we see that on a consistent thing nowadays. On a consistent type of timing nowadays. You should never be in competition with people. Only be in competition with yourself. Every day you need to get up, look at yourself in the mirror and say, how can I be better today? And it's hard. It's hard. And every day you're not going to be better than what you were the other day. But if you want to find the love that you're looking for, you have to sit there and say, I'm not the best I am right now. How can I improve myself to where when I do find the right person, I can be the right man or woman for them. Same thing goes to the ladies though. Why are you consistently going for a man who clearly shows to you that he mistreats you? Clearly shows to you that he does not love you? Who cheats on you? Abuses you? Why? What is it about him? And the truth is, like, is it the excitement? Because I get it can be a phase for people. But there are a lot of grown women out here who are still dealing with this. They're still dealing with this and are like, oh. Y'all going out here saying how you hate all men, but yet you ain't even met every man. Every man is different, believe it or not. Just like these dudes who are sitting there saying, I hate all women. Y'all have never met every woman in your life, bro. You have not met every woman, bro. You have not met every man, sis. You've not. Y'all so caught up in your own ways about how love actually is in terms of the toxicity of it, that one day you can come across someone who is literally probably the best person you'll ever come across, and you're not even gonna be like Drake asking your homeboy, bro, where's she at? You gonna be like that. You gonna be up asking the Lord where's she at, and the whole time the Lord already tried to bless you once, and you decided to pass up the opportunity because you were so caught up in your ways. Anyway, y'all probably like this is becoming a yapathon. So I love each and every single one of you. And remember, love is not supposed to be toxic. It's not supposed to be chaotic. It's not supposed to be abusive. It's not supposed to be in a situation where you're gaslit. It's not supposed to be narcissistic. It's supposed to be patient. It's supposed to be kind. It's supposed to be graceful. It's supposed to be accountability, or accountable is the right word. That's what love is supposed to be. And if you cannot be those things right now, maybe you should look at yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, what is wrong with me? Maybe a lot of y'all need to take the time to be single and learn to embrace yourself first. Love yourself first. Because here's the thing. All those characteristics that I just named, you have to find it within yourself first. But anyway, once again, I love each and every single one of you guys. Remember to follow A True Kings Podcast on all social medias. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And y'all be blessed. Peace.